Hi, I'm Mike Van Wambeke, and I'd like to welcome you to the first episode of In Their Own Words, Lincoln and McClellan. Today, we're going to be exploring the breakdown in the relationship and trust between Lincoln and his general. I have a few exchanges between Lincoln and McClellan that highlight the reasons that ultimately drove Lincoln to remove McClellan from command. But before we hear from the participants themselves, let's look at a little context. 1861 had been a disaster. Not only had Union forces been embarrassed by a resounding defeat at Manassas after the start of the rebellion, but some of Lincoln's generals began to free slaves and capture Confederate territory, an act which Lincoln was not yet prepared to address and which Congress had certainly not authorized. The Union Army was in disarray, and so Lincoln placed George McClellan in command of Union forces in order to train the troops and seize the initiative. By the dawn of 1862, inactivity still remained the order of the day. In order to compel movement, Lincoln issued General Order No. 1 in the hope of bringing about a change to McClellan's hesitation to act. But instead of moving by February 22nd, as Lincoln had requested, McClellan did not begin his laborious campaign down to the peninsula until mid-March. And despite Lincoln's misgivings about the merits of this plan, Lincoln tried to ensure the general's success by supplying him with the troops and material he requested. By April, though, there were clearly some strains in the relationship, and on the 6th of that month, McClellan sent an urgent dispatch to his commander-in-chief.
The order forming the new departments, if rigidly enforced, deprives me of the power of ordering up wagons and troops absolutely necessary to enable me to advance to Richmond. The enemy is strong in my front, and I have a most serious task before me in the fulfillment which I need all the aid the government can give me. I again repeat the urgent request that General Franklin and his division may be restored to my command. George B. McClellan, Major General.
Lincoln had placed a great deal of faith into a general that was now making further requests beyond initial expectations. Although he may not have realized it, McClellan was putting Lincoln in a very difficult position. In this reply, pay close attention to Lincoln's concerns with McClellan's actions and consider how much trust you believe Lincoln has in his general.
My dear sir, your dispatches complaining that you are not properly sustained, while they do not offend me, do pain me very much. After you left, I ascertained that less than 20,000 unorganized men without a single field battery were all you designed to be left for the defense of Washington. This presented, or would present when McDowell and Sumner should be gone, a great temptation to the enemy to turn back from the Rappahannock and sack Washington. My explicit order that Washington should, by the judgment of all commanders of the Army Corps, be left entirely secure, had been neglected. And once more, let me tell you, it is indispensable to you that you strike a blow. You will do me the justice to remember I always insisted that going down the bay in search of a field, instead of fighting at or near Manassas, was only shifting and not surmounting a difficulty, that we would find the same enemy and the same or equal entrenchments at either place. I beg to assure you that I have never written you or spoken to you in greater kindness of feeling than now, nor with a fuller purpose to sustain you, so far as in my most anxious judgment I consistently can. But you must act. Yours very truly, A. Lincoln.
McClellan would eventually move against Richmond, and while he would have some success against Lee, the ferocity of the fighting, coupled with a sudden danger to the capital, caused him to pull back. Confederate forces had been making gains under Stonewall Jackson, and when Lee went on the offensive in the summer, Union forces suffered humiliating defeats. By fall, Lee would be in Maryland, and McClellan faced off against him once again at Antietam. In what would become the bloodiest single day in American history, the two sides clashed, and while Lee would ultimately withdraw, McClellan did not pursue despite having other forces in reserve. Sensing an opportunity and compelling him to advance, Lincoln not only visited his general in the field, but wrote to him again. In this exchange, consider the amount of advice Lincoln is giving his general. Is it Lincoln's place to take this active a role in matters of war? What seemed to be his concerns with McClellan by this point? Also, consider McClellan's response and the tone it strikes when dealing with the president. How receptive does McClellan seem to these ideas offered by Lincoln?
My dear sir, you remember my speaking to you of what I called your overcautiousness. Are you not overcautious when you assume that you cannot do what the enemy is constantly doing? Should you not claim to be at least his equal in prowess and act upon the claim? Fight him if a favorable opportunity should present, and at least try to beat him to Richmond on the inside track. I say try. If we never try, we shall never succeed. If he make a stand at Winchester, moving neither north or south, I would fight him there, on the idea that if we cannot beat him when he bears the wastage of coming to us, we never can when we bear the wastage of going to him. I should think it preferable to take the route nearest the enemy, disabling him to make an important move without your knowledge, and compelling him to keep his forces together for dread of you. It is all easy if our troops march as well as the enemy, and it is unmanly to say they cannot do it. This letter is in no sense an order. Yours truly, A. Lincoln.
To His Excellency, the President. Sir, your letter of the 13th reached me yesterday morning by the hands of Colonel Perkins. I had sent out strong reconnaissances earlier in the morning to the direction of Charlestown, and as sharp artillery firing was heard, I felt it incumbent to go to the front. I did not leave Charlestown until dark, so that I have been unable to give your Excellency's letter that full and respectful consideration which it merits at my hands. I am not wedded to any particular plan of operations. I hope to have today reliable information as to the position of the enemy, whom I still believe to be between Bunker Hill and Winchester. I promise you that I will give your views the fullest and most unprejudiced consideration, and that it is my intention to advance the moment my men are shod and my cavalry are sufficiently remounted to be serviceable. Your Excellency may be assured that I will not adopt a course which at all differs from your views, without first fully explaining my reasons and giving you time to issue such instructions as may seem best to you. I am, sir, very respectfully, your obedient servant, George B. McClellan, Major General, United States of America.
McClellan's halting advance did not sit well with Washington. Lincoln's patience finally snapped after receiving a note from McClellan complaining of, quote, sore-tongued and fatigued horses, end quote, and he responded to the general by saying,
I have just read your dispatch about sore-tongued and fatigued horses. Will you pardon me for asking what the horses of your army have done since the Battle of Antietam that fatigue anything?
McClellan was removed from command in November of 1862. What drove Lincoln to finally break with his general? Was it impatience? Did he feel that McClellan was incompetent? Was it just an incompatibility between the two men? Think back to the sources examined in this video, and study some of the other resources on this page to draw your own conclusion. Thanks for watching, and check out the other videos on this site for more episodes of In Their Own Words.